Welcome back to Movies Recapped. Today I will show you an activity, science fiction, thrill ride film from 2006, named Children of Men. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and fare thee well. It is 2027. For right around 20 years, humankind has been unequipped for repeating. Furthermore, it's presently near the very edge of termination. This has made society break down. The United Realm is one of a handful of the leftover countries with a working government, which has caused a flood of evacuees to unlawfully enter the country. This has carried the military to watch the roads, getting workers for detainment or even execution. The story starts when our hero, Theo Farron, enters a bread kitchen to get some espresso and hears the news on the television. The most youthful individual on the planet died. Following quite a while of battling with his superstar status his age had acquired him, he was assaulted by a fan for not having any desire to give out his signature. Everybody in the shop appears to be crushed by this misfortune, yet Theo doesn't look excessively troubled. He leaves the pastry kitchen and as it were stops a couple of feet away to add bourbon to his espresso when abruptly there is a blast from the shop. There's bunches of shouting and alerts going off, yet fortunately Theo doesn't get injured. With an irritating ringing in his ears and still unbothered, Theo goes to function as though nothing had occurred. In the workplace, nearly no one is finishing genuine work, they're too bustling crying over the loss of the world's most youthful individual. Theo accepts this as an open door. He deceives his chief and discloses to him he's annoyed with the news as well, so he requests that authorization finish his work at home previously leaving. Coming back, the train he's taken is continually on the less than desirable finish of stones from rebels and indigents. There likewise are many enclosures loaded up with exiles and protected by the cops on the station. This actually doesn't make Theo even flicker. Outside the station, Theo meets with his old companion Jasper Palmer. After an embrace, they get in Jasper's vehicle and drive to his spot in the open country while examining the pastry kitchen blast, considering the thought it may have been the public authority itself that established the bomb. They see a transport cruise by, taking outcasts to a camp in Bexhill. Jasper's place is stowed away in the forest, so secret that they need to stop the vehicle and move a few imitation branches away to have the option to pass. Jasper ridicules Theo for his absence of adoration life and his liquor issue. He likewise offers him to come live with him, yet Theo turns down the deal. When they're inside the house, we learn through photographs and paper cuts that Jasper used to be a political illustrator and his significant other Janice was a photojournalist. Nowadays, be that as it may, Jasper turned into a radical and pot vendor, and Janice is in a mental state since she was tormented. There are additionally old pictures of Theo with a lady and a young man. In the wake of saying greetings to Janice, Theo and Jasper hang out on the love seat smoking and examining different points. Jasper makes reference to his primary customer as a movement cop at the Bexhill camp. Furthermore, they quarrel about the conceivable presence of the Human Project, a mystery-logical association with stowed-away offices where they're attempting to discover a fix to mankind's barrenness. Theo is once again at his home the following day and when he leaves for work, he's seized in the road by a assailant bunch called the Fishes. Face covered, they put him in the van and don't uncover him until they have him and Fishes an area. At the point when Theo opens his eyes once more, he is in an insured room. Also, he sees without precedent for years his ex Julian Taylor, who apologizes for the showy behaviors yet they needed to do this to keep away from the police. She's been a needed lady since their dissident days, yet Theo has abandoned that life. Subsequent to clarifying they weren't the ones who put the bomb in the pastry shop, Julian takes Theo outside for a walk. The motivation behind why she's made him come is that she needs move papers for an evacuee young lady to get to the coast, and Theo can get them through his cousin. Theo turns down the thought and when Julian offers financial pay, he says he needn't bother with her cash, an undeniable untruth. Since he isn't working together, Julian makes her kin cover his face again and remove him from their place. While on the van, one of the Fishes discloses to Theo this has never occurred and that they'll generally be watching him. Another offers him a paper hint to hold tight the cylinder on the off chance that he alters his perspective. Then, at that point Theo is tossed in the center of the road with some change for the transport. In a little while, it appears Theo winds up evolving his brain, since he pays his cousin Nigel, who fills in as a priest, a visit. An extravagant vehicle with its own driver gets him and takes him to the private home, where the clergyman keeps and re-establish exemplary masterpieces, similar to Michelangelo's David, which is feeling the loss of a piece of its leg. In the wake of embracing, they eat along with the pastor's child, who disregards them totally while playing on a screen associated straightforwardly to his body. In the wake of getting some information about his significant other, Theo requests the exchange papers by making up a story that they're for his sweetheart to have the option to visit her exceptionally debilitated sibling in Brighton. Nigel focuses out it's a colossal blessing since it's profoundly controlled and, subsequent to hollering at his child to take his pills, he requests that Theo follow him to the window, where he reveals to him he'll perceive what he can do. Theo asks why Nigel keeps this workmanship when in 100 years there will not be anybody to take a gander at it. Nigel answers he simply doesn't mull over everything. Hours after the fact, Theo is at a bar and is drawn near by one of the Fishes, Luke, who saw the sign Theo had been given posted outside. Theo clarifies he got the papers, yet they're joint, so he is the person who should accompany the young lady, an assignment he'll acknowledge whether he's paid more. Luke acknowledges in light of the fact that Julian appreciates Theo. The following day, Theo is drawn nearer by one of the Fishes again while he's wagering on the canines, a lady that gives him a similar indication he utilized the other day. He follows her outside and onto a transport, where Julian is sitting tight for him. She gets some information about the papers prior to thinking back with regards to the past times. However, they wind up squabbling about the manner in which they took care of the death of their kid, Dylan, and inevitable division. At the point when they arrive at their stop, they rush out of the transport and Theo takes the risk to inquire as to why he was picked. Julian says she confides in him. He additionally inquires what will befall them, and Julian says she doesn't know prior to pecking his lips. She says he's just come for the cash. Subsequent to intersection a scaffold, they stroll under it to meet with Luke, who gives Theo his cash when he requests it. While disclosing to him that he'll be taken to the primary designated spot in Canterbury and afterward he'll be all alone with the young lady, they get in the vehicle, where Theo is acquainted with a lady named Miriam and the little youngster he'll accompany, Key. They drive to Canterbury. Theo rests toward the start of the excursion, yet when he awakens later on, he and Julian memory about their days of yore as activists and play somewhat game with a golf ball. At the point when they're going to arrive at their objective, they're trapped by an outfitted posse. Julian has chance. They figure out how to drive away from the group, however at that point it's the police that show up also, pursue them all things considered. Luke has no other alternative except for to stop the vehicle. Nonetheless, when he gets out, he shoots the two cops prior to getting back to his place in the driver's seat and getting everybody out of there quickly. They stop to say their farewells to Julian. The two ladies cover the body with a wrap and ask, while Theo professes to be unaffected until he separates himself from them. Then, at that point he permits himself to cry. However, it doesn't keep going long, since Luke rapidly advises them to get back in the vehicle so they can leave before they're gotten once more. It's sunset when they arrive at a Fish's safe house, where the whole gathering is meeting to vote in favor of their new chief. Theo requests a ride to London, however he's advised it's excessively perilous and he'll need to delay until the following day. All things being equal, he's offered a shower and clean garments. In the wake of washing up, he chatters with one of the Fishes before Miriam comes searching for him to take him to Key. She takes him to the outbuilding while the Fishes vote in favor of Luke as their new chief. Inside the stable, Theo is left alone with Key, who says Julian recounted her accounts of their kid. What's more, if things got awful, she should converse with Theo in light of the fact that he's the only one she can trust to take her to the boat called the Tomorrow. Theo doesn't need anything to do with this, so to persuade him, Key removes her dress and uncovers her mysterious, she's pregnant. Theo is stunned, not accepting what he's seeing, however the second is hindered by Luke, who returns them all to the house. They watch the news on the television. Julian's body has been found, and they're presently searching for the individuals that were with her in the vehicle. The police think they'll have the option to distinguish them soon. A contention begins then with regards to how they ought to manage Key. The Fishes would prefer not to make her public on the grounds that the public authority will remove her child, yet Theo thinks she needs appropriate consideration. There's additionally the issue of the Human Project being somewhat hard to contact, so they might lose their possibility in the event that they don't go to meet that boat. Key chooses to remain and have her child in the protected house, however, she actually needs to be taken to the Tomorrow after her child is conceived. Sometime thereafter, Theo can't rest, so he is alert to hear the commotions of individuals showing up outside. He sneaks around to subtly realize what's happening. It's individuals that assaulted them before. The trap had been Luke's arrangement so he could turn into the pioneer and assume liability for the child to utilize it as a political device in their unrest. Theo will not permit this, so he races to Key's and Miriam's room to mention to them what's happening and help them escape. They sneak outside and keeping in mind that stowing away from the watchman, they cautiously approach every vehicle. They debilitate two of them and enter the third one, which will not begin. Theo gets off and begins pushing it, acquiring the consideration of the Fishes. Theo gets back in the vehicle, which actually doesn't begin however basically is moving on account of the reality they're going downhill. The men are following them yet aren't permitted to shoot in light of the fact that the young lady is in the vehicle, so they attempt to snatch them through the window, however Theo and Miriam drive them away. The vehicle stops again mid-slope. Theo gets out to push it once more. It gets it going, yet it additionally allows the opportunity for one of the Fishes to find them and point his weapon at Theo, who moves him off by hitting him with the entryway. At the foundation of the slope, the vehicle stalls out in mud, so Theo gets out to push while Miriam kicks off it. It takes her a couple of attempts however the vehicle winds up functioning admirably, so well truth be told Theo needs to pursue it to get back inside. Miriam stops it for himself and with Theo back with the ladies, they figure out how to get away from the homestead. Theo discloses to Miriam he is aware of where they can stow away and takes them to Jasper's home, who gladly welcomes them. While having cafe, they talk about their choices. The Human Undertaking's boat will have 2 stops, and neither of them looks great. Windsmore is excessively far away to make it there on schedule, and the Bexhill is the outcast camp. Jasper feels that is the arrangement, and tells them to eat while he prepares a few things. The following morning, Miriam is outside rehearsing something almost identical to yoga and Key is twisting Janice's hair. Theo approaches her and inquires her with regards to the pregnancy. She's 8 months pregnant and she doesn't have a clue who the dad is. At that point, Jasper gets back with an arrangement. The gathering can go to the Bexhill camp and meet with Jasper's cop purchaser, who will pirate them inside so they can get to their boat. Key acknowledges this plan. Dusks. While Theo is having a beverage, he hears the others sharing a smoke and visiting. Jasper recounts to the ladies the tale of how Thea and Julian met, as protesters in a rally by some coincidence, and their relationship took an awful turn when they lost their child to this season's virus pandemic. Not having the option to hear a greater amount of it, Theo passes on them to their visit and hits the sack. The following morning, everybody's woken up by the caution, the fishes have discovered them. Jasper gives Theo the directions of how to contact Sid then, at that point sends him to the vehicle with the ladies, declining to go with them. He needs to remain, saying he's deteriorated circumstances. Theo drives the young ladies away however stops the vehicle at a slope to see what's happening in the house from a far distance. The fishes show up disliking Jasper's replies, they shoot him. Theo doesn't reveal to Key this, he says all is well prior to heading out for great this time. They come to their gathering point the following day, a neglected school. While Key partakes in the swings, Miriam enlightens Theo concerning her old occupation as a birthing assistant and what she saw the fruitlessness issue mean for all her patients gradually. A truck shows up then, at that point, it's Sid, their contact. In the wake of trading the secret key, Sid gets them in the truck and drives them away to the displaced person camp. Key has her first withdrawal coming, they tell Sid is only her being nauseous. They come to Bexhill, and Sid advises them to put on pitiful evacuee faces prior to moving them from the truck and into a transport loaded up with evacuees that rapidly leaves the region. Before sufficiently long, Key's constrictions begin deteriorating and when they come to the real camp, her water breaks. A watchman sees her domain of trouble, so Miriam diverts him by going about as though going through strict madness, so she's removed to be executed. He's likewise going to take Key, so Theo focuses at the water on the floor between her legs and says it's pee and fertilizer, adequately pushing him away. Theo and Key leave the transport and join a line where Theo loses Key briefly when a gatekeeper advises him to lose his clock. In any case, they rejoin before long. The line that is ultimately delivered into the city that became the displaced person camp, and there they search for Marichka, a Romanian lady that takes them to a safe deserted structure and gives them a private room where Key can have her child. Work is difficult for Key, yet Theo guides her, and in the end she brings forth a solid child young lady. The following day, Sid drops by to keep an eye on them. The city's turned into a perilous wreck after a divider exploded and individuals began to escape, so Sid's come to help them escape. At the point when he sees the child, he guarantees he'll take them to a boat, however Marichka is against this thought, inferring he is anything but a decent man. Sid takes out his firearm then, at that point and uncovers he knows there's an abundance on their heads that he intends to procure. In transit first floor, Marichka figures out how to push Sid off what's more, Theo hops on him to move him away from Key. After Marichka hits him with a stick, the three of them begin fleeing, with Sid breathing on their backs. They go down a foyer to reach a road and when Sid stalls out on the entryway, Theo completes him off with a block to the head. Theo gets some information about the boat, and after some disarray on her part, she gets on furthermore, begins directing them to it in the midst of all the battling between the military and the fishes. She causes them to enter a structure and subsequent to showing the child to the proprietor through a window, they're permitted to enter an exceptionally pleasant loft. There they eat, rest and improve shoes for Theo while two older ladies play with the child. One of the gatekeepers reveals to them they need to leave in 60 minutes, so when that time elapses, they put Key on a wheelchair and leave the structure. They're running once more, and before long they're found by Luke and the fishes. Luke takes Key and the child with him and passes on different fishes to shoot Theo and Marichka. They're going to do as such when more military shows up, allowing Theo and Marichka an opportunity to run from them and attempt to discover Key. Theo gets isolated from Marichka however he continues onward, keeping away from troopers and fishes until he makes it inside a structure under substantial fire. Subsequent to climbing different steps, he at long last discovers Key and her child close to Luke, who is attempting to persuade them regarding his great aim when a bomb goes off in the structure, taking his life. Theo gets Key and the child and escorts them out, not experiencing difficulty leaving the structure since everybody is awed by the child. The exiles contact them as though they were a dream, and when they are halted by the fishes, they additionally let them pass. While leaving the structure, the fighters who enter saw the child also, begin hollering to stop the terminating so they can allow them to pass. As they leave everybody outside gaze at them in shock, however the fire resumes when the triplet is far enough from the structure. They rapidly return to the structure entrance where they had been caught and rejoin with Marichka, who at long last takes them to an underground entry where their boat is sitting tight for them. Subsequent to declining to go along with them, Marichka pushes the boat and sends them to the ocean. Theo columns until they make it to the buoy that will fill in as their meeting point. While pausing, Key sees blood on the boat and Theo discloses to him it's his. He's been shot, yet he's fine. At the point when the child begins crying, Theo encourages her to burp her, and Key chooses then that she will call her little girl Dylan, after Theo's youngster. It is then that Theo blacks out and maybe indeed, even passes away precisely as the Tomorrow shows up to take Key and Dylan to well-being. That's the end of the video. Make sure to subscribe and like the video if you enjoyed watching. Turn on post notifications if you found this video entertaining and would like to watch more. Thank you for watching.